Welcome to day 4 of Let's Get Exam Ready. Today we're focusing on how to structure our short answer question responses. In short answer question responses, students are usually very good at demonstrating their knowledge of the relevant topic and using relevant research. But there's one thing that students often fail to include that's stopping them getting the marks in the top mark band bracket. What is that one thing? We'll look at that next. The thing that students often miss in the short answer question responses is the link. They include knowledge of the topic, they include a relevant study, but then they stop and they fail to make sure that they explicitly explain how their study links to the topic. Even though this might be very, very obvious to you, it's important that you always end your short answer questions with a 2 or 3 sentence link explaining why you chose that study and how it links to the topic of the question. The marking rubric for short answer question responses asks us to really focus on 3 key things. First of all, is to make sure that our response is fully focused on the question. So we don't include irrelevant critical thinking, and we make sure we fully focus on the question and what it's asking us to do. The next key thing is accuracy. Our knowledge about our topics and our studies must be fully accurate. And finally, the response must include appropriate research. All short answer questions must include relevant research, and that relevant research has to be explicitly linked to the question. What that means, we'll look at in more detail next. So there are 3 key things to think about in your short answer responses. The focus of your response on the actual question, the accuracy in the detail of your response, and the link that you provide between the study and the question. Here are 2 possible short answer questions from the biological approach. At first they look similar to each other, both about the topic of neurotransmitters, both asking us to focus just on one neurotransmitter, but they are different questions and they do require a slightly different approach and structure. Let's look how we might structure our response to explain the effect of one neurotransmitter on human behaviour. This question is asking us to focus on the effect of one neurotransmitter of our choice and the human behaviour of our choice as well, and explaining it. So our topic is the main focus of this response. We need to give 3 or maybe 4, maybe even 5 sentences explaining how behaviour is a result of this one neurotransmitter. We then need to include relevant research, but we can just summarise this study. It's not the focus of our response. So we can tell you what they did, what they found, and what was concluded in the research. And finally, before we finish, we must make sure we include that explicit link to enable us to get into the top mark band bracket. How the study that we've chosen links to the actual question. How do the results of our study show that the neurotransmitter affected behaviour? So even though it might be very obvious, we need to show that we have chosen this particular study for a reason, and we need to show the examiner how the study links to the question. For the question asking us to describe one study which investigated the effect of one neurotransmitter on behaviour, we can see that the focus is different here. The focus is on the study itself. So our description of the study is going to be more detailed here, and our description of the topic will be smaller. So we can open and begin with explaining what neurotransmitters are and identifying that one neurotransmitter and one human behaviour we are going to focus on in our response. Our description of the study needs to be fully detailed here, including everything we know, including the aim, the participants, method, procedure, results, conclusion. We really need to include everything about the study to describe the study in detail. And finally, again, we make sure that we explicitly explain how that chosen study links to the topic of neurotransmission and the effect it has on behaviour, making sure that we explain how the results of this particular study clearly demonstrate the effect that one neurotransmitter had on human behaviour. Here are some example short answer questions from the biological approach. Think about how you would plan out your responses. What studies would you include? What relevant knowledge would you include? And how would you end your short answer question responses? How would you make sure you explicitly link the study to the question?